Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Mad Capper, and this is another video on Raid Shadow Legends, and another in our series of I Built Them So You Don't Have To. As is the standing rule on my Twitch streams, if we reach a level 5 hype train, I will open up a Sacred Shard and build the next epic champion that I pull, so long as I haven't already made a video on them. And the last of these has been a couple weeks ago in the name of Siegehulk. So this is the video. Without further ado, here we are, it's Siegehulk. Thrashing Fit places a 50% increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns, then attacks all enemies. Has a 75 bookable to 100% chance of placing a decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. Siegebreaker places a 30% increased crit rate buff and a 30% increased crit damage buff on this champion for 2 turns, then attacks 1 enemy. Has a 75 bookable to 100% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff on the target for 2 turns. Battering Ram attacks 1 enemy, decreases the target's turn meter by 15% if the target is under a decreased defense or a decreased speed debuff. Siegehulk also has an aura of ally crit rate in Doom Tower battles by 24%. There you have it. It's a different team. It is a non-Lysandra, non-Allure team, double Coldheart with solid lead. Solid lead is something thanks to, I think Odd One was the one who mentioned that in stream. I was using Ethos before that, but altogether the team worked really well. A little bit scary, but you have the fact that Siegehulk and Vizix can turn meter down, so they can just do enough until the Coldhearts cycle back around. And I imagine playing with the speed tune, this will be a little bit more consistent. The one thing I would have is if any turn meter got resisted, then it might be a fail round because we don't have an attack down. So his hit on them is going to be really bad. But overall, there you go. I mean, 2 minutes and 11 seconds on Fire Knight 25. Pretty good, I would say, using Siegehulk for that defense down. Plus he's got the turn meter. Plus he's hitting really hard in his own right. 1.1 million, doing more than Vizix damage-wise. In fact, doing more than one of the 2 Coldhearts there. As you can see, only the one Coldheart did more damage-wise because they're kept A3s. And yeah, I think he holds well. Insert whatever team you think you can use him. Obviously, you know, there's plenty of other ways to use this guy, but the fact that he's got turn meter manipulation, he's got defense down, he's got a speed break, and he hits really hard, makes him very good for a lot of different dungeons, so long as you have a team that can gel together and make sure that he doesn't get hit a lot, because he is rather fragile overall. But there you go. Fire Knight 25 complete. Checkmark. Siegehulk, great champion. All right, so here's my Siegehulk, and the big thing here is, as always, I try not to put my best gear on him because I want a more general idea of what kind of ability he has in the different areas. So I've of course built out new gear for him. I had to steal a couple pieces of accessories just because I wasn't getting any good rolls, but we ended up with 4882 on the attack, 216 on speed, 248 crit damage with 329 accuracy. This boy can hit, but he's still most importantly a debuffer. So the key is if you just need him to do damage, then you can mitigate that and go into Savage and make him hit even harder. Chances are, if you're using this champion, you're using him for his A2, which is that decrease attack with an increased attack on all champions as well, 100% chance, and it's on a 3-turn cooldown. So it's a great ability in many areas of the game, most notably Faction Wars. Unfortunately, I got 4 days to wait for that, and I don't think you guys want to wait for the video. So we won't take him into the Ogryn tribe, but to have an AoE defense down is always, of course, top tier, and I think he's the only epic available in the Ogryn tribe. So it's nice to finally get him out. I can't wait to start using him now. He's also got a Doom Tower aura, so you can build out teams using this aura, bring them with less crit rate, which means you can build out their other abilities. I would actually make him a little less shaky than he is here. We talk about his abilities, but he's only got 29,000 health, mainly because of that 15,000 starting HP. Like so many of the champions they're bringing in that have a defense down, they're attack-based champions, which means they're squishy, which is why the Duck, the Tyrell, the Stag Knight are so critical in this game, because they're not built like attack champions. 2 of them are defense. And while Stag is not a defense champion, he's a support champion. I believe he's still, you can build him out fairly stalwart. But this boy hits. This guy hits really hard. That A3 was hitting pretty decent numbers. The 123,000 on one of the ads is most notable, jumps out at me. Even his A2 was hitting well. Not crazy numbers, but pretty good considering we're looking at a champion that's debuffing and putting an attack up, which is going to help the whole team hit a little bit harder. And the perception gear, if you don't have the Great Hall maxed out, then you can always switch this out. Of course, I would lose, about 500 attack, but then I would get the extra accuracy that I needed. And you could arguably and ultimately negate him for attack, make him strictly as a champion you want to use to debuff. In which case you would just forget about his damage, and that would just be a bonus. Build him out with HP chest, build him out with a crit rate gloves instead of crit damage gloves, and just get those stats a little closer to 40,000 HP or even higher if you felt you needed to in order to get done what you need to get done, especially in Faction Wars where Ogryn Tribe has that HP burn boss. So you want to make sure that he's a little tankier if you're bringing him into that scenario. But it'll help you with the waves. You get to the boss, it will help you with the boss. Just keep in mind that HP burn is going to whittle him down. So you're going to want to make sure you have the survivability on him a little bit higher. As far as his masteries, we went with my pretty standard build for an offensive champion with debuffs. We took him down support. You saw the numbers I had. I wouldn't necessarily need this. I do like Master Hexer, but I could easily have gone down the defense to make him a little bit more survivable, just because of what my Great Hall gives me for flexibility. That plus 80, I don't need the 10 here, and I certainly don't need the extra 20 when there's no skills on cooldown, or the 16 for allies that are alive. So altogether here, you build them as you will. This is just a guide. Over here, of course, I wanted to go to Helm Smasher for the extra damage. We wanted to go here because most are going to have higher XP. And then we want to see what he can do when he's hitting with full health. Depending, you may want to go with something like Grim Resolve instead. Just play it by what your runs are doing. And then I do like, of course, Ruthless Ambush, that first hit on each enemy. He's hitting an AoE, so an extra 8% on everyone for that hit is always a nice thing. So altogether, those are his masteries. What next? Let's take him into the arena. I always like to see what these champions can do in the arena. We're going to bring him in, see if we can't get something that's favorable conditions, and show you. It's pretty easy to use a champion like this, and we'll talk about in the arena where and why there are some unique advantages to this champion that some of the other champions that you have may not have in their toolkit. Hi everybody, I'm just going to insert this. Had some audio problems on the original recording of Siegehulk, so we're going to redo Siegehulk. It is Monday, so I do caution you that I'm not fighting the top tier teams that I normally would film these on the weekend when I'm a little bit higher up in Gold 4 and I'm fighting some a little bit closer to my level teams. This case, probably not a whole lot, but the same rules apply. So this is my standard team. I have a Trunda nuke, I have a Lysandra top speed with a Kymar aura, also for the strips. So I have a bit of a redundancy here in the strips because I do want that attack down, defense down from Madame Saris. But if you don't have Madame Saris, or you want to put together something where you don't use her, you can absolutely use any defense down. And I think that's where Siegehulk could definitely work for you if you need him to, is in this scenario. Now, there are some limitations to that. The most notably, of course, is the weak hit ability. But for the most part, you know, we're looking at a team here, you're actually not going to weak hit any of them. So I'm not too worried about that. And we still have the same thing. We have a strip. So maybe you have Gorgorab as your fastest or Arbiter's lead, and then you would bring in maybe someone like a Cythalia to strip as well. Actually, we can even do that. Let's even do that. We'll find out if I'm faster or slower. The beauty is I can just re-record it and pretend it never happened if I'm slower, because my Arbiter is a little bit slower than what I would like for this sort of deal. But we went too far. Where are you, my Lysandra? Or my Cythalia? I'm going to have the a top tier Cythalia. We're going to +4 this, by the way. As much as I'm not a huge fan of the +4ism, I do have 5 of her, and I have 6 Lugan, and I think she'd be more useful to empower. 266 speed, perfect. So here's a case. We're using a strip, a boost strip. We don't have a Madame Saris, or don't want to use her for whatever reason. Maybe she's an immunity. Maybe I have her set up for something specific. So this is the team we're going to go with. And same rules apply. And this is what the great thing is if, depending on the team you have, especially if you have a Kymar, we can use this sort of deal. Now, the great thing is she removes and does turn meter. So, so what we're going to do is have a chance to go. Now, when he goes, look at the damage he did just by himself. And the obvious advantage of that, now you see here I'm not tuned because I'm tuned to the other system, but you can see now it opens up a whole, it does two things. First of all, it opens up a huge opportunity here for extra damage. So if your earlier game, you don't have that Trunda level nuking, that end game nuking, like I'm not worried about any of these buffs. They're dead. They were dead if they had full health with this, just because of how hard Trunda hits. But in this case, if your earlier game, your earlier scenario, Siegehulk giving you that extra damage is an absolute bonus, because then you can follow up with a mid-game nuker, even your starting champion, and you can easily kill them, right? Obviously with Trunda, not really worried, doing about 100k damage there without any debuffs on the champions that obviously Siegehulk killed. But just to give you an idea, he does really good damage, and that's really going to be helpful. Keep in mind that there are some masteries that you have to be wary of when using this, mainly speaking timely intervention. So as a recap, most people who build out arbiters, or any revive champion really that you're going to use in the arena, I do that every time, I don't know why. Anytime you're going to use a revive champion in the arena, even a heal champion, depending on what they also do, you can run into timely intervention. Now, timely intervention increases their turn by 20% anytime a hero drops below 25% HP, death being below 25% HP. So their arbiter probably got that 20% boost, which allowed her to revive. So that is a worry about Siegehulk. You may tone back his defense in favor of other things just to be safe there. Depends on what you were doing and how hard you are hitting for your gear to begin with. But if you're taking away half their life, it's perfect. You're not proccing timely intervention. You're not killing anyone, which also, by the way, gives them speed. The spirit haste for each dead ally. As far as I to understand, this does apply at the time of death, not the time of her turn. So she will get that extra 8 speed, 3/4 or 7/8 through. It probably won't be enough to boost the turn meter or speed up the turn meter to cut, but you do have to keep in mind that she's getting that extra 8 speed as soon as someone dies. So, just keep that in mind, that a lot of revived champions have these abilities on them, therefore are going to cause some issues. Also, Cycle of Revenge, 50% chance of increasing the turn meter by 15% when an ally is attacked with a critical hit. So, and it receives multiple critical hits from a single skill. So those two things are very important to keep in mind. If you're hitting with Siegehulk and you're hitting too hard, or you're critting too often, you could actually cut yourself out of the fight. So let's do one more fight here, and this time this is the one we just used. We're gonna try this. I don't think I'm gonna go first here. I think this is definitely gonna be faster than me. But you see how I'm speed cutting her now? That's interesting. And then we can strip. Now the problem here is when I do this, look at all the damage I'm doing, and we got a counter attack. No cut this time. We're good. And then boom, we win. But he's doing so much damage. So much damage. So maybe not in arena. In arena, you're gonna have to be very careful of that. But man, oh man, when you need that extra damage in Doom Tower, those sort of things, having that secondary damage dealer who's also applying debuffs. Now, Madame Stress is an amazing champion, but in PvE, I don't like her as much as this sort of champion because she's just placing, not doing damage. Now, placing means no resistance, but honestly, this guy's got pretty good hammers. And if I'm using him with my ethos, my PvE ethos, or Trunda, we're doing a lot of damage, doing a lot of work there. So just keep those things in mind. But this is a champion you can probably use in the arena. At this time, I'm going to send it back to the original edit, and we're going to talk about our final thoughts on Siegehulk. Slowly but surely, Ogryn Tribe is becoming one of the most complete, well-rounded factions in the game. You have champions, you have underrated champions like Grimskin, and you have top-tier champions like Maneater for Clan Boss. But that's not all. You have one of the best poisoners in the game, certainly among epics, in Occult Brawler. You now have 2 defense down options with completely different toolkits for completely different scenarios now. With Ugo and Siegehulk, you have a counterattack champion in Skull Crusher. You have Urgrim, a soloer and an absolute tour de force, even after he got nerfed. Did I say the underrated Grimskin? The underrated Shatterbones. I don't think Grimskin's underrated, though I do have a video on him, so feel free to check that out after this one. Grush. I mean, there's not an epic, unless your name is Prundar or Galcut, that is completely useless in this group. There's a couple that are difficult to use or very situational. Cagebreaker, Powering Titan. But if you look at their kits, they are definitely usable. Grimskin's another one who I have done a video on, and we were able to make use of his toolkit even though it's not the strongest. But man, oh man, you look at this whole team, and this guy fits right in. I think the fact that you've got now 2 options with Ugo and him with the defense down, but they're both very different. This guy's a very nuke-centric. He's very hard-hitting, and you see this. He's got decreased speed. Very good for cases where you need in the Fire Knight. You've got the increased damage, increased crit rate, which is very nice abilities when you're trying to do that extra damage on a single target, which he hits very hard. And then you've got an AoE with increased attack on him, plus a decreased defense on everyone. And finally, you've got that turn meter decrease if they have the decreased defense or speed on them, which of course he's placing. So someone like the Fire Knight, he's able to decrease turn meter. So a very important skill for those of you trying to push past 20 in the Fire Knight, for example, as long as the affinity is favorable to you. Overall, I love the champion. He looks cool. He looks like an ogre, He looks like he should be an ogre, and he's very well designed in my mind. And I like his toolkit. I love his damage. I think if you have Ugo and him, I would still recommend using Ugo for your defense down champion. But, and this is a strong but, if you can now put them in a tune, you can have them alternate each other so that you get defense down on each round as you're plowing through waves. So very helpful there. Don't forget his Doom Tower aura of 24% crit rate. That's huge. People don't understand how huge that is or can be. If you can build a Doom Tower team that you're not using elsewhere, the ability to negate 25%, 24% of your total crit rate needed on your champion, that can be 2 slots. Unless it's either a triple roll somewhere or double roll and a single roll or any combination. Sorry. And now you don't have to have that, which means you can have more crit damage. You can have more speed. This is a champion that does need speed to make full use of his kit. You do want him going first, and you do want him with accuracy, which does limit some of the damage he does, but there's another crux. If you have Yugo and you have him, well, you don't really need his debuffs suddenly, so why don't you forget the accuracy or at least deprioritize it and go for that extra damage, get him into that 5k, north of 5k attack with 260 crit damage range, and really see what this Siegehulk can do. So my thoughts on him: amazing champion if you have him, especially if you don't have Yugo, and most especially if you need help in faction wars, but anywhere that you need a defense down or some extra damage on your lineup, feel free to build Siegehulk. He's definitely not a Vault Guardian. Give him a try. You might just love him. I think he's got a great kit. Those are my final thoughts on Siegehulk. What are yours? Do you think that I'm overhyping him, underhyping him? Where have you used him, or where might you use him now that you've seen him in action? Let me know in the comments down below. Most importantly, I want to thank you for joining me on this video. I want you to please be kind to one another, be safe, and we'll see you in the next video.